It's a mean age. But it is going to be a beautiful future as long as we don't f*** it up. I'm Brian McWilliams, and this is Mean Age Daydream, where I bring you unfiltered comedy, criticism, philosophy, and politics with a Mean Age Daydream. What's up, buttercups? Welcome to Mean Age Daydream. I think I may change up the intro, the welcome. Maybe something like, hello, Weeblers, because Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. Really dating myself there. Who remembers that shit? Nobody. Nobody does. Anyway, welcome to the show, guys. It's going to be a shorter show today. I've had a brutal last couple days in which my baby's been home with hand, foot, and mouth. If any of you parents out there know what that is, it's a disgusting disease which kids get when they're in this daycare period. They're crawling around, they're putting crap in their mouths, they're poking each other in the faces and fingering buttholes, whatever else they do at daycare. We'll talk about Epstein's client list soon, by the way, tying in. But the kids, they get this horrible thing, and it just breaks out all over them in sores. It's like going down on somebody that's having a full herpes outbreak just every time I hug the baby. It's just disgusting. So I've been dealing with that on top of a home renovation. If you saw my Twitter feed, I legitimately is as close to having like a meltdown, legit mental break yesterday as I've ever had in my life. Now, granted, I did not because I'm Brian McWilliams, but my God, things and stuffs. I won't bore you with the details, but it's been a horrible few days. So I haven't had a lot of time to really digest news, but there's a few tidbits, including, as I mentioned, the Jeffrey Epstein client list, which we've been asking for. Everybody's been saying, where's the list? Where are the clients, right? Epstein's dead. Ghislaine, as I like to call her, Ghislaine, because it's funny. Maxwell, imprisoned. And yet, hundreds of people that flew the client list, we don't have it. They're out walking around amongst us, giving my children hand, foot, and mouth disease. Well, good news, guys. The world is changing. The wheels are turning. And a federal judge just ordered the documents naming the associates to be unsealed. Yes, it's going to be a late Christmas present. It's not going to come leading into the holidays. I know. I was thinking it would be so great if we could have had this. There's like 177 names on this thing. If we could have had a Jeffrey Epstein terrified elite pedophile advent calendar, right? How fun would it have been? Like an old school David Letterman countdown. We have a little calendar, and every day you open up a picture. Oh, there's Bill Gates. Jail. Oh, there's Bill Clinton. Straight to jail, Now, I don't know if these people will or will not go to jail, but still, I just would love to have that. Sadly, we've been denied. Have to wait to early January. But anyway, the documents are part of a settled civil lawsuit alleging Epstein's one-time paramour facilitated the sexual abuse of Virginia Giuffre. And now, with Maxwell in a 20-year sentence, Judge Loretta Preska has set the release for January 1st. Happy New Year, guys. We're going to get to see which babies, New Year's babies, were molested on January 1st. I don't know which I'm going to watch. Penn State is playing in a bowl game. Massive letdown. Eagles also stabbed me in the heart last night. Perfect cherry on top to my horrible day. Am I going to watch a bowl game? Or am I going to spend all day January 1st hungover scrolling through the names on the client list? I can tell you. Whoops, somebody, a Facebook user, I don't know, one of our live stream watchers says, got a link to the flight logs from Spike a couple years ago. I do want to see it. Send it to me. I do want to see that. Thank you, Facebook commenter. But my God, I just imagine how great this is. What I love about this is that this news breaking is going to literally ruin the Christmas holiday for every person on that list. And I love that. I love that they have to sit in terror, waiting, looking their children, their loved one in the eye over Christmas, opening presents, shaking, knowing that their name is going to be released on that list. We're finally going to get them, and maybe we'll finally see some justice for this disturbing ring, which, conspiracy theories abound, many of which I believe completely, aka that Epstein was working for the U.S. government. Everything adding up to how he got his money, why he wasn't prosecuted, the CIA essentially saying, yes, he's one of our assets. The fact that he, has a Israeli passport says that probably he was working with the Mossad. All these things add together to a massive cover-up, aka blackmailing operation for this pedophile ring. And now they have to wait. And the present is awaiting for us on January 1st. God, it's going to be delicious, guys. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. You know what? In hindsight, it's very dark in LA. It's raining today. I should have turned on another light behind me, but whatever. It's a short show. So that's first to kick it off. Epstein list. Awesome. Cannot wait for that. Next thing I want to roll into is that Hunter Biden gave a speech. He gave a speech, a long-winded speech proclaiming his innocence, right? The fact that these people had gone after his bank account and quote-unquote cherry-picked items out of his bankrolls to use to indict him because he's been indicted. He has to now go through hearings. He's going to be in a, well, they say they want a public and a private hearing. The public hearing, of course, they don't ask us deep questions. You're not getting into the deep legal aspects of it, but he's supposed to do a public and a private. Hunter gives a speech saying, well, I'm only going to do the public one. I want this out in the open. Why? Oh, because he wants to avoid the more in-depth questioning. But he's out there saying that they cherry-picked items from his bank account to create these indictments. Like it's a political stunt. Dude, that's the idea. You go through bank accounts. If there's an item in there showing that you were, why is my fucking camera out of focus? Showing that you were complicit in illegal activities, that you may have been pushing money to quote unquote the big guy, or that you're getting money from these foreign entities without registering yourself as, of course, an operator working with a foreign entity or some sort of business interest that you're supposed to legally do. Well, yeah, of course they're going to find that. But of course you're cherry picking. What do you think? They're going to pick out your Pinkberry receipts? He's like, I don't see any receipts from when I bought my Lego set for my little cousin. You guys have really soloed in on these business dealings. And of course, the $1.7 million that I pulled out of ATMs to pay off my prostitutes or business conduits, whatever it might be. $1.7 million ATMs. God, to have robbed Hunter Biden. But the balls in this guy. Going out and giving this speech, accusing everybody in the world and taking no responsibility whatsoever for his actions. Say, well, I've made mistakes. He's like, I abused my privilege. That is an understatement. Understatement of the year. Abused your privilege. Buddy, your whole life has been an exercise in privileged abuse. The fact that you tried to make this plea deal, which the judge had to throw out because it was too ridiculous. The fact that you lived a life where you're just able and enabled to smoke crack and bang prostitutes around the world. It's like, where's Carmen Sandiego? Except it's where's Hunter Biden's crack limp dick? That's the new game that we're playing. Where in the world is Hunter Biden's crack dick? Again, dating myself. Kudos to those of you that get that Carmen Sandiego reference. Great show. And this fucker now, he's selling works of art, quote unquote works of art. Why do you think they sell for so much? There's a long-standing standard for how to launder money. And artwork is one of the primary ways to do it because, as you guys know, from not supporting the podcast, you shitbags, go and join us on patreon.com/Lions of Liberty or lionsofliberty.locals. Art is subjective, and what you pay for art is subjective. So, of course, there's no way to legally go after Hunter Biden and the people that are buying Hunter Biden's art, be they Saudi kings, be they Democrat backers, be they, God knows, whatever Chinese businessman he's working with, be it Zelensky himself. I hope Zelensky's got a full, Hunter Biden nude work of art that he, blew by putting a straw with paint up his dick hole or whatever it might have been. I don't even know how he creates these things. You can't say, well, clearly this is slush fund to gain influence and to bail Hunter Biden out and to appease Joe Biden because it's art. Because it's art, guys. So some of you out there, please do support the art that is this show, the paint that I'm spewing out of my asshole currently right now, despite the fact that I just am so tired. So tired with my gross baby that I have to hold. But not only is Hunter Biden giving a speech, the most tone-deaf speech the world has ever known, but even people like Jen Psaki, yes, the evil redhead who, in hindsight, I don't think we appreciated Jen Psaki like we should. Because Karine Jean-Pierre is the most incompetent person I've ever seen work as press secretary in my entire life. I mean, at least Jen was competent at lying to your face. She could think on her feet. Karine Jean-Pierre can't think at all. I mean, it's almost as though she's doing an improv sketch of somebody doing Karine Jean-Pierre. It's like a bad SNL monologue, essentially, every time she goes up there. But even Jen here, who of course got a show on like MSNBC, one of those horrible stations, even she's saying, Hunter Biden, why would you do this? Go away. What are you thinking? The White House is begging you to just peace out. And really, if Hunter Biden was a man, he would be up there just taking the bullet. And this is something I talked about previously, ages ago, right, when this all first started, is if he wasn't such a self-centered, privileged piece of shit, he would step up and just say, look, my dad had nothing to do with it. This is all me. You take that bullet. Your dad's president. Your dad's enabled you to live your lavish hooker banging lifestyle. Dude, take the sentence. Go to jail for 5-6 years if you were a good son, which we know he's not, or a good brother to your family, which we know he's not because he was banging his dead brother's wife and smoking crack with her. So again, this is a big if. But if you were, it's a very simple equation. And I guarantee you, behind closed doors, probably that's what's the conversation that's happening. Is Joe saying, what are you doing? Just take it. Just take it. You can stop all this in its tracks. If there's no way to trace that money directly to Joe, which apparently Lindsey Graham says that his whole, deniability, I didn't really know what was happening. I just jumped on these calls to say hello. Well, that seems to be falling apart. Now we'll have to wait and see what comes out during these subpoenas, because they now can subpoena Hunter, they can subpoena information. We'll see what comes out. But if there's nothing to distinctly link Joe Biden to Hunter that we can find on paper or in these bank accounts or whatever it might be, then it's a very simple process. Hunter, you take it on the chin, you take your medicine, and you go to jail. Don't worry, you'll be able to find crack in jail. Don't worry, I'm sure you'll go to a very nice white-collar prison where you can play squash and the prisoners smuggle in your crack in their buttholes, and you can have all the things you need. I'm sure at conjugal visit trailers, you can stock those with all the prostitutes you need. Don't worry about it, buddy. And yet, this guy just won't do it. He just won't do it. It's pretty amazing. And at the same time, this is all happening, you also have Joe Biden hitting the lowest polling levels of his life. I was just seeing this today. And it's interesting because news broke about 20 minutes before I jumped on here that Colorado their Supreme Court has moved to strike Donald Trump from the primary ballot because of quote unquote insurrection. That's going to start a domino effect, right? Because there's all these other states that are already trying to do this and have him removed. Well, it's going to start a domino effect. Every blue leading state is going to do the same thing. It remains to be seen if the Supreme Court of the United States gets involved and says, no, you can't do this. There's, we set the precedent here. You're not allowed to remove a candidate from the ballot before, he hasn't even had a trial yet. You guys are being judge, jury, and executioner here in regards to a political candidate on a very dubious allegement of insurrection. Anyway, back to the polls. So Biden's polls, even Slate has got an article on it about these horrible, horrible polls. But he has, let me see here, he has hit basically an all-time low, and especially against Donald Trump. God damn, this person writes in thick paragraphs. Basically, his approval rating is at 36%. I'm not even going to bother this article. I thought it was going to give me information. It's terrible. It's at 36%. That is a historic low, wherein you've got people that have zero confidence in Joe Biden. And can you blame them? Look at the man doddering out there. This is why the Libertarian Party moved to have a conservatorship over Joe Biden, because what's going on right now is elder abuse. The man cannot talk. He cannot walk. I remember seeing there was a video playing of Joe Biden walking across the grass to, helicopter, whatever they call it, Air Force Fun. And it looked like somebody trudging off into a lake, like a person riddled with cancer trying to drown themselves, just slowly trudging. Okay, it's the last march. The economy's garbage. Every time they say Bidenomics, people roll their eyes. I told you about the polls last show that people are feeling the inflation. People are saying this is the worst economic time of their life. They have it worse than the previous generation. Even older generations that lived through the 1970s inflation were saying it's worse now. And it is. Because everything's gone up. You've got his mishandling of these international conflicts. You've got just zero confidence in his ability to right the ship. And at the same time, he's putting out these ridiculous videos of the White House Christmas party where these, I don't even know, these theatrical actors are traipsing around, tap dancing around giant lit Christmas trees and candy canes and the theatrics of it. Even if you're on the left, even if you're a fan of musical theater, which I, yes, used to be a part of. I used to be an actor, guys. Can you believe it? I majored in theater. Left it to be a writer. Hated it. Hated all the people in it. But if you're putting this video out, it shows you have zero connection to the everyday person. You don't understand where they're at. People out there are racking up credit card bills. This is why, like yesterday, I was talking about like my meltdown here. I'll give you a snippet insight into it. Right now, people are tightening up, right? End of year, trying to make ends meet. Everything's more expensive. I bought a bunch of, doors and bidets for toilets and like all these different faucets for my house during the renovations, right? So I'm in a rental house right now. Hopefully I'll be gone out of here in a month. Bought them months ago. COVID happened. Can't return any of this crap. They're installing all the appliances. They don't work. They don't fit. $1,000 worth of bidets don't work, don't fit. So I'm losing my mind, right? And on top of all the other expenses. Everyday Americans are losing their minds. Not maybe in the same way, but just spending that money. They're losing their minds. And then you've got the White House putting out this tone-deaf celebration of glamour and expense and lavish living. And oh my God, look at the glory and splendor of Joe Biden in the White House and this ridiculous display, which of course also is rubbing in a lot of the things that people don't like about pushing certain ideologies, woke ideological points. I'll leave it at that. Is there any question why his polls are so low? And now, this ties into the Supreme Court stuff. The Democrats are in full panic mode. You've got Hunter Biden out there rubbing in how privileged he is and how corrupt he is and how Joe Biden probably is connected to it. You've got everyday Americans turning on it, not being able to afford things. And now you've got Donald Trump rising in the polls head-to-head Joe Biden. It was close. It's not so close anymore, guys. So, of course, you've got Supreme Courts taking it into their own hands in these states to stop him. I wonder if the American population is going to wake up to judicial advocacy, which is a huge problem, right? Which is what we're seeing here. I wonder if they're waking up to their rights being taken away, their right to choose who their elected leadership is being taken away by these nonsense lawsuits. I talked about the civil suit that went on. I still can't believe that Giuliani has been ordered to pay $148 million. Now, look, screw Rudy Giuliani. I hate him. I revel in the Ron Paul moment where he put Giuliani's dick in the dirt for being so stupid about 9/11. But $148 million to two idiot staff members at a Georgia polling center. For what? I'm sorry. Were these women racking in the money? Were they stars of Screen that got canceled? Johnny Depp got like 40 million, or not even. I think maybe got 10 million for losing multiple $1 million pictures, for having his image wrecked because of what's her face, Amber Heard's allegement that he was a rapist and a beater and all these other things. He got like $10 million. But these two chicks get 148. Now, he's not going to pay that. But Jesus Christ, can we calm down with these civil suits? It's insane. It's nonsense. They exist solely so people can make a point when they're politicized. These are, by their nature, depending on where they're going to happen, they're going to be ultra politicized. They're just giving money away. Stupid people making up stupid sums because they want to make a point. That's not justice. It's just politics. That whole system has to be reformed. It's fucking insane. Got off on a tangent. Back to the polls. So you've got these polls, and like I said, you're going to see this judicial advocacy. You're going to see this domino fall and lead to state by state by state trying to remove Trump from these primary polls. And the Supreme Court's going to have to step in. And even so, it's one of those things where calling what Trump did an insurrection, and I'm no Trump lover nor Trump supporter, but calling it an insurrection is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life. A bunch of imbeciles storm the Capitol building. And by storm, again, we saw the video. Storm is a strong word. There was some pushing and some shoving at certain points. Other points you see they're just walking through calmly, being given guided tours. And let me remind you, being able to take a building over, like Linda Sarsour and like 60 protesters did today for a pro-Palestinian march, being able to take a building over does not mean that you get to control the country. I know. Shocking to hear. This isn't like a movie where if you get control of the crown, well, now you rule all of Mordor. It's not like you get all the fucking rings and the Lord of the Rings guys and the rings happen to be in the Capitol building. That ain't the way it works. How can you call something an insurrection against a government when it's a bunch of idiots walking around the Capitol building? And then a bunch of lawsuits, which, by the way, I'm sorry, it's not illegal to bring lawsuits up or to try to get information. Now, some of the things you'd say were intimidation or bullying, I guess, on Trump's part. I don't know. The way Trump talks, it's hard to tell what he's doing, what his intent is. But point being, to say that that is an insurrection is also absolutely fucking retarded. It's off the charts stupid. And that's what these people are alleging. 4-3, the Supreme Court in Colorado says that he cannot be on the primary ballot because of the 14th Amendment and insurrection. It's just madness. All right, one more thing, and then we're going to wrap it up. Said short episode today. Chicago's communist mayor, where... Sorry, I'm just reading a comment here. So Chicago's commie mayor, who had replaced Lori Lightfoot. Beetlejuice, Lori Lightfoot, one of the worst mayors any city has ever had, who, of course, then got a cushy job, I believe, at Harvard, talking about public policy. Because her public policy has been so great, right? During COVID, shutting down the school system, shutting down and lock people in their homes. Meanwhile, having murder rates skyrocket in her city and crime rates skyrocket because of all the gang violence. Well, the guy they voted in to replace her, even far more left-wing, an even bigger asshole, socialist commie asshole. And this guy, let's see, hold on, where is his name? I swear to God, these things, there you go, Brandon Johnson. So Brandon Johnson is absolute bought into DEI, woke ideology, equity ideology, aka tearing down anybody's individual ability to succeed and trying to reduce everybody to the mean. Because let me remind you guys, equity, as the left is attempting to create it, has always and will always, by virtue of the social programs, by virtue of our education system, the welfare system, it does not lift people up. Ever since these programs have been put into place, it does not lift anybody up. It serves to destroy families. It serves to continue people in the life of poverty they live, to essentially keep them in that gilded cage of welfare and of limited access to what's going to move you up the socioeconomic chain. They have gifted schools, or they had gifted schools in cities wherein parents could actually get into certain schools that had high levels of achievement. You could get a ticket punch to get into a better university. Maybe you get a scholarship by going to some of these prep schools or some of these nicer schools that are in terrible education areas like New York City, which got rid of these programs, and now Chicago. So Chicago now has eliminated 11 schools that were high achieving schools for kids that took the test, worked hard, had good parents, were able to achieve. Nope, sorry, we got to bring you down. None of these things lift anyone out of poverty. They don't make it, because look, the kids that are doing badly in these schools, partially it's because the schools themselves. So now you're eliminating their ability to go to a better school and forcing them into public schools. So that shows you where the impetus is. All right, teachers unions, your terrible education rates, about Chicago's terrible education rates. You're forcing these kids who aren't learning to read, who aren't learning to do math, who are dropping out, who are joining gangs and shooting and getting shot. The one out they have is to try to get in these academies. We're going to eliminate that. We're going to force them back into the public schools that can't serve them, can't service them, into areas that are probably more violent. They probably hate these kids. Imagine going back from a high-achieving school, by the way, into Chicago's scummy, just violent, horrible regular school system. How do you think those kids are going to merge back into the population, guys? You think they're going to be welcomed with open arms? Do you think all those low-achieving, don't give a damn kids that are just being pushed through the system to keep the money rolling in? You think they're going to be like, you know what? Welcome, buddy. I hope you really raise our test scores up. Meanwhile, half the time they don't even give test scores anymore. Half the time it's pass fail like it is in LA now, because that way there's no accountability. That way there's no gauge of how students are doing because, oh, you passed or you failed. But no, these kids are going to be merged back into these schools. It's going to be like when they tried to desegregate schools back in Mississippi. You're going to have these kids welcome with open arms and closed fists. Good luck, kids. Enjoy your education environment. Enjoy your experience. Now you get to be in the thrown into the unwashed, unruly masses of Chicago's public education schools. It is amazing to me how much the left seeks out these progressives, these wokes, these socialists, whatever you want to call them, how much they seek out to destroy everything that's good in the world, everything that can give people a chance to move up. It's always a race to the bottom. Nothing is ever about achievement. Nothing is ever about making someone's life tangibly better or celebrating success. It is always about forcing people down to the bottom rung, to the level of the lowest among us. That's their equity, guys. It's not bringing everyone up to the high level of these achievers. It is forcing achievers down to the level that all these other slugs are at. That is not how we succeed as a society. It's not how we advance our culture, our technology. It's why our education system is crumbling. And, all these other countries must be looking at us, shaking their heads and just laughing, celebrating the stupidity that has overtaken America, our politics, our education system. I don't understand how people could buy into this. I don't understand how the parents in Chicago don't revolt against this, aren't protesting, aren't loudly changing their votes, polling their money, moving out of state, like people in California are doing and people in New York are doing. I don't get it. You're just going to take this line down? The kids whose parents put them in these public schools that can't, maybe their kids aren't high achieving enough to go to these elite academic situations. What do you think is going to happen to the grade curve when these kids come back? And also, why would you as a parent not want that motivation for your kid, for yourself, to say, look, your grades, you almost got in, keep working, keep pushing. Now it's just, let's all slog through the same garbage system with garbage teachers who are going to let you down over and over again. But don't worry, they're going to get their raise every 3 years. They're going to get they're going to go out on strike every few years and demand more payments and more woke ideology. And they're going to make sure your kid, if he turns out to want to be called Susan and his name's really Bob, that you don't know about it. That's what's important, right? Achieving? Don't worry about that. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for the show today. I'm going to continue breathing, despite an article I saw that breathing is helping to fuel climate change. Apparently, some of us are breathing out more methane than others. I personally know where my methane comes out. Hopefully you do too. So, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please hit the notification button or follow on Rumble. On YouTube, I say this every show. I will reemphasize it. We have thousands of subscribers. We have been shadow banned for a decade. You have to hit the notify button or you will not see it. If you would be so kind, subscribe to the podcast. It would mean a lot to us, guys, as we roll into the new year here. Subscribe to that Lions of Liberty podcast or Mean Age Daydream and Finding Freedom. We may, just as a heads up, you may want to subscribe to those now because we might be rolling out a different format in the new year. We may actually separate my show and John's show where you will only hear those on the solo feeds and introduce a new Lions of Liberty main show on this subscription feed. So make sure to follow those so you don't miss out. And if you have a few extra dollars, I know you don't, it's Christmas time. Hey, Patreon, locals, support what we do, the bonus shows, the content, all that stuff. All right, that's it. Thank you, guys. From me, Brian McWilliams, from the Lions of Liberty Network, and from Mean Age Daydream. Keep those electric eyes on me, babe, and keep that ray gun to my head.